Theodore Brameld, Social Reconstructionism. Theodore Brameld lived from 1904 to 1987 and was an educational philosopher. His focus was on using education as a vehicle to advance social change within our country and the world. His educational philosophy over time developed into the theory of social reconstructionism. Theodore Brameld had quite a bit of teaching experience. He first received his doctorate in philosophy from the University of Chicago in 1933 and taught at many universities over his 30-plus year career, such as University of Minnesota, Long Island University, New York University, Boston University, Springfield College, and the University of Hawaii. He wrote 16 books over his career that focused on topics that involved social change in the classroom. Also, he had a very high passion for cultural perspectives, and he wrote how those cultural perspectives can affect education. Some of his more notable works are listed below, such as Education as Power, Ends and Means of Education, A Mid-Century Appraisal, Cultural Foundations of Education, and Interdisciplinary Exploration, The Teachers as a World Citizen, a Scenario of the 21st Century. Brameld had many influences. He had some preceding theorists that came before him that he followed, such as John Dewey, Karl Marx, and Karl Marx's ideas of social construction, structure, and society. Also Freud and Freud's unconscious belief that people had, and also L.W. Warner and the class struggle that he saw within contemporary American society. Some other contemporary theorists that worked along with him in the Reconstructionism ideals were George Counts, Harold Rugg, and William Herd Kirkpatrick. The concept of Reconstructionism developed in the 20th century out of kind of springboard out of John Dewey's ideals, and also because of the issues that was facing the country and the world after World War II. You had the development of the Soviet Union, you had the Great Depression, and the spread of communism and fascism around Europe and the rest of the world. Overall, Reconstructionists believed that education could be used as a method to create cultural and social change in our country. Education was the vehicle to change society. These theorists examined the relationship between schools' curriculum and the political and social economic development of society. Social Reconstructionism had students learning from real-life experiences, critically thinking and analyzing current social, political, and economic issues. So Reconstructionism wants students to get out and learn from real-life experiences. They want students to debate, think about things that are going on, and discuss it amongst themselves. A great quote I found from Reed said that they want students to learn to identify problems, methods, needs, and goals, and to implement aggressive strategies for social change. In the end, Reconstructionism wants students to be involved and aware citizens. Brameld's take on social reconstructionism was a little different. Like I mentioned earlier, he lived and worked during a time of social unrest preceding and following World War II. He realized the United States was in a crossroads and there needed to be something for society to do to change what was going on, and he thought that avenue for change was education. He wanted to use education to promote social and political change, and he wanted to do that by creating a curriculum that allowed students to investigate and take action on current issues. Classroom learning, he thought should involve inquiry, debate, authentic learning that was real life involved. Have the students learning from what's really happening out there. Brameld wanted a society that fit a utopianism. Utopianism is a thoughtful projection of an ideal society that fulfilled all human needs and aspirations. Utopianism is a very hard concept to attain, but Brameld thought it was something that people should work towards. His ideal curriculum, quoted by Thomas, was for social change that would incorporate utopian reflection, social analysis, and democratic deliberation. He wanted the students to socially analyze what was going on and look at democratic ideals and discuss and debate those. This ideal definition was constructed using theories from people such as Marx, Warner, and Freud. Brameld applied his Reconstructionist curriculum in 1944 at Floodwood High School in Duluth, Minnesota. Within the school, he actually implemented his ideas for the perfect curriculum that would develop social change and also would include those things I mentioned before: utopian reflection, social analysis, and democratic deliberation. The curriculum and project was referred to as a design for America. Floodwood was Brameld's first and only attempt at implementing Reconstructionism in a curriculum form. He did not come back to it after the program. He thought he got the information he needed from implementing it. The school agreed to a 3-month program involving juniors and seniors. Every day the students went to class for 2 hours, and during this class period they looked at critically examining the state of American society. They looked at human needs, and they considered how these needs can be met by social planning. There were 2 teachers that taught the course. The principal supervised, and Brameld acted as a supervisor, and he also chose literature and different aspects he wanted the students to look at. Some of the things the students did while they were in this curriculum is they worked in cooperative groups, a concept that we hear a lot about today in education. And in these groups they developed ideas and proposals on different topics they were studying. They had a student steering committee that worked with the adults to adjust the curriculum as they went. The groups were formed with 4 or 5 students, and the teacher was more of a facilitator in the process. Once the group worked and developed a topic, they then would present the findings to the whole class, and the whole class would take in debate further. Some of the topics that were investigated and studied by the students were alternative forms of governments, basic human needs. They researched alternative forms of economies, interdisciplinary activities with arts and sciences. They examined ideas for education reform and read many different contemporary literature that was picked out by Brameld that focused on Reconstructionist ideals. Brameld concluded that the students responded correctly, and he didn't come back to this curriculum. He kind of went to another direction afterwards. However, Kenneth Hovet reflected upon the Floodwood, and in Thomas's article he wrote Hovet's reflection. And what he came up with is that students learn how to work cooperatively with other students. They were excited to learn the facts behind issues and wanted to go out and learn more about what was happening in the world. Also, students learned to express their own views and also listen to other ones, listen to other people's perspectives and be respectful of those. And finally, they learned more about democratic values and the ideals in this country. Brameld's international view on Reconstructionism. He had a passion for culture, and with the world tension happening in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, he wanted to take the Reconstructionism to a more international level, and he did that after Floodwood. He kind of progressed throughout his career. Brameld wanted a global curriculum that would help examine and solve problems facing the whole world. He started off looking at within the country, but he thought this was a type of curriculum that could branch out. He believed in social self-realization. He wanted students to learn that to achieve success, they had to develop the community, and the community can only achieve success if individuals have achievement. It was kind of, in other words, everyone is involved in the success of the community. The community is as strong as its weakest link. Sorry about that. Brameld also advocated for a global curriculum that would promote the protection of cultural and environmental values at the highest international levels and the implementation of social and economic programs at the lowest feasible levels. In other words, he thought education from top to bottom and government from top to bottom should be involved in finding solutions. It shouldn't just be at one level. Everyone should be involved in critically analyzing and looking at the issues the world faced. Brameld wanted education to focus on learning through history, to look at the future instead of always idealizing what's happening now through the past. Reconstructionism and education today. Aspects and strategies used in Reconstructionism are used in classrooms today, such as education is used to promote cultural change. Curriculum today advocates diversity and cultural awareness. Cooperative learning, like I mentioned before, is a hot term today in schools. Student-led groups, critically analyzing, going in depth, inquiry, all those types of things were evident in Reconstructionism. Debates and discussions on authentic issues, they really hit on learning from real-life experiences, which many teachers promote today. Another aspect that we see is volunteering and learning in the community. Having kids go out there, be involved in what's really going on, and they can learn a lot from authentic issues. Critically thinking about present-day issues. Another aspect. A great quote by Stern from his article in 1991 said, this approach is especially relevant today with our current educational trends towards authentic learning, critical thinking, and problem solving and service learning. While the term Reconstructionism is not used regularly in classrooms, aspects are still especially a part of social studies education. I chose to focus on social studies because that is what I taught, and I was quite surprised as I researched this theory how well connected it was with my content area and the subject I teach, world geography. I thought this subject naturally was set up for the critical analysis of what our country is facing and the world issues that we are going through. It also focuses on teaching about cultures and how cultures diffuse across the world or spread throughout the world. Also, reflection and learning from history is a big part of social studies in order to create solutions and paths to follow for the future. Also, social studies, you learn and evaluate types of governments, economies, political systems, and how those affect and influence countries of the world today. And also a big topic that I discussed in my world geography class is globalization and its impact. While Brameld wasn't directly talking about globalization 50, 60 years ago, the concept has definitely developed over time and is something that Reconstructionism focuses on, having students look at the impact of countries working together and some of the issues that might arise from that. Another application I found in Reed's article, Social Reconstructionism for the Urban Student, was really interesting. He looked at how social reconstructionism can be used in an urban environment to help students gain self-efficacy and responsibility. In his article, he mentioned Reconstructionism gives students meaningful learning experiences, working out in the community through service work, and this helps them build self-efficacy and responsibility. He was quoted as saying, they are helped to overcome feelings of oppression and learn to believe they have the ability to make a difference. In conclusion, Reconstructionism is an ideal. It's not mentioned regularly in classrooms today, but the strategies that I mentioned before are still present. And also, education has always and still is used as a method for social change, or for cultural change. If something's happening in the world, it eventually reflects what's happening in the classroom. Also, with the shift to authentic learning and a push for students to develop critical thinking skills, the concept of Reconstructionism are being applied in a quest to create informed and global students. Learning today is not isolated to one country. Students are living in a global age. So I thought this theory did a great job of having students analyzing the options and the issues out there. In the end, education is supposed to be used to prepare them for the diverse challenges the future holds, and with the global world we're living in and the interdependence between countries, Reconstructionism is a concept that can be taught in social studies classes and many other classes throughout the country. My references are listed here, and thank you.